stranger.
Greetings, travellers, and welcome to episode 102 of the Innsmouth Book Club podcast. As you can see, we've brought the bus here directly to the Gilman House Hotel because we're going to be joined by a very esteemed guest today. I'm one of your hosts, Tim Mendes.
And I'm the other one, Rob Poynton. But before we tread the stairs up to room 428, we've got just a couple of news announcements. The first is, of course, Innsmouth Literary Festival 2025 is taking place the 27th of September at the King in Yellow's House Centre in sunny Bedford. We'd love to see you all there. It's pretty much the same as last time with a couple of extra things. There's going to be some extra gaming going on the Sunday, and we're looking at a Friday night quiz as well. So a few extra things going on. And, of course, our patrons get free entry.
Yeah, because I usually turn up on the Friday because I don't want to travel on the Saturday morning. So I usually end up taking everybody to the pub. So I thought I may as well do something useful while I'm there, except just getting really, really drunk. So that's where the quiz idea came from.
So you're going to be doing a really, really drunk quiz? Pretty
much, yeah. Is there any other way of doing it?
Well, no, absolutely not. And your new book is out as well. Yours and Zoe's new book, I believe.
Indeed, yes. Beyond Desire launched on Friday, and yeah, it's a collaborative collection between me and Zoe Burgess, and as you would imagine, with Zoe involved, it's filth. It's absolute filth. It's 10 stories of erotic cosmic horror, and it was way out of my comfort zone writing that, because I've never really done it, and I didn't realise how hard it would actually be. Pun fully intended.
Yes, I see the double entendres are in there already. Yeah. Yes, well, out available now. It is come in a sort of plain brown paper bag.
Plain bag, yeah, a brown paper bag from the cold print room. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes, the Lovecraft shop in Tottenham Court Road.
Yeah, that's the one.
All right, lovely. Let's go upstairs then and meet today's guest. So here he is. It's Christopher Michael. Hey, Christopher. Thanks for coming in. Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you all. How you doing?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good. So first time in Innsmouth, is it?
It is. And, I've heard some things from the other towns and stuff like that. But after being here, and taking in all the sights, I got to say it's absolutely much worse than they ever I could have described it. So I was wondering too, if you guys had any, I was trying to look up and see who stayed in the hotel, but I can't find any reviews or anything on the hotel. So I don't know.
I think you might find a bit of graffiti on the wall here and there, things like help perhaps and that sort of stuff. But
I figured it was just left for room service or something like that. But
yeah, no, the guest book was squirreled away and locked in a safe, I believe. It's probably incriminating evidence if you look at it like that.
Along with some of that erotic cosmic horror books and stuff. And that's
Indeed, absolutely.
Yeah. You have to ask for those. They're kept under the counter downstairs in reception, I think. So,
Special request.
So perhaps we could start, if you could tell us something about your background, where you're from, that kind of thing. And also, what was your first encounter with Mr. Lovecraft?
Yeah. So I don't know how far back we want to go, but basically I grew up in Montana, backwoods, country, all that good stuff. Background, it's I was in the military for quite a few years, close to 15 now, I think it was. Did tours in Afghanistan, was in Ukraine at a certain point.
Wow.
All over the world. We went to, I went to Korea for a while, did Operation Cobra Gold there. So we were in Thailand and all this other fun stuff. Got out and I became a federal agent. So it's a lot of different stuff, a lot of, law enforcement things. But my first run-in with Lovecraft was a long time ago. I didn't even really realize what it was. It was, I played Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth on the original.
Yes.
I see smiles all around. So I was oh yeah, I remember. if you were able to get past the boat level and stuff like that without the glitch after it was killing your game and stuff, that props to you. I don't think I ever actually finished it because of that, but I didn't realize that was Lovecraft. I was just like, wow, that was a creepy game. And then I think it was like years later, I picked it up again. Like I found it like for sale at like one of those retro game stores, started playing it, and I looked it up online because I was looking for something like how to fix the glitch or something like that.
Yeah.
And I realized it was like, oh, this is actually a book by H.P. Lovecraft. And I had heard his name before, but I hadn't really read any of the stuff. It's not like I was introduced to him in high school and stuff. This was like when I was an adult. And then I read Call of Cthulhu, and I was hooked at that point. I was like, this has got such a cool feel, like such a cool atmosphere. It just, I still, at least to me to this day, I still think that's his finest work.
Yeah.
But then I started, it was like, then I dived straight down the rabbit hole, mountains, Innsmouth, all of that good stuff. And after that, I think that was one of the other things too, is kind of realizing that, like, even though that game was Call of Cthulhu, it was definitely based more off of, Shadow over Innsmouth and stuff like that. So I was like, well, now I got to read that one. And yeah, then just after that, just kept going. I just never stopped.
Yeah. It's interesting you brought up that glitch because on our last episode, we were talking about Lovecraftian games. And I said, if you're going to play it, don't play the PC version because it's broken. And that is what I was talking about.
The Xbox version was broken too.
Yeah,
I still have it out there. It's like, I haven't gotten past that level.
I never had a problem with it. Because I've got the Xbox version, but I've never got stuck on it. It crashed a couple of times, but I managed to get through that. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. But did you say they're re-releasing it with a fix or something?
Night Dive Studios are talking about doing a remaster of it in the same way as they've remastered like Doom and System Shock and all that kind of stuff. And their remasters are absolutely top notch. So fingers crossed on that.
Yeah, definitely. Because that was one, I think actually at one point I saw that people had emailed like Microsoft asking for like a re-release or a updated version of that, and I was like, oh my god, please! But I never saw anything, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
So before that, were you interested in sort of ghost stories, horror fiction, that kind of thing, or was it just totally through the video games?
No, I had always I think it was definitely high school. One of our English teachers had us read Stephen King's It. And so like that was kind of one of those ones where it's like it got me kind of interested in horror, even though it was definitely weird. That dude has he was definitely on some drugs when he was writing that stuff. But oh man, it's one of those books too where they turn it into a movie, and you're like, I'm kind of glad that they cut certain parts of it out, like just some of them.
Oh yes, we all know what you mean.
Yeah.
So weirdness, yes. Yeah. I was like, okay, it was like let's just forego that fun little aspect of the story and move on to the more important aspects of the story. But yeah, it was like, so I got into that, and then she had us read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein also.
Nice.
And that was that's one of the ones where it's like as a high school boy, and I'm sure you probably could relate. It's like I hated it when I was in high school, but then reread it on my own as an adult and actually really liked it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of those ones that are like Dune and some of those. I actually had good reading in school as a kid. Like our English teachers actually chose like some really good like books and stuff, so I actually enjoyed it. It wasn't like Catcher in the Rye or something like that where you're like, oh god, here we go.
Yeah. I was quite lucky in that respect. I got given Turn of the Screw and Woman in Black when I was at school.
Oh
So
wow.
so I was lucky in that respect as well.
I've always wanted to read Woman in Black. Like I only saw the movie with Daniel Radcliffe. I didn't actually read the book, so now like I didn't know it was a book. So then when I heard it on your podcast that it was, I was like, oh, well, hell, now I got to read it.
I first saw that as the play up in London. The play is really good. Then read the book.
Great.
The one you want to watch, there was a TV adaptation from, was it 1980 something?
89.
'89.
Yeah, ITV. It's actually been re-released on DVD now.
That is very good.
Really?
Yeah, that's a real. The Daniel Radcliffe film was pretty good, but it was very sort of jump scary, you know. I thought, but
I thought that like the Radcliffe one had like a really good atmosphere. I really like those like any of those movies where they're kind of set in like that turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s, where it's like there's you can kind of relate because there's still certain things that they have technology wise, but then there's also that really kind of creepy aura of like still that unknown and the, you know, like superstition and all that stuff. It's a really good atmosphere. I liked it.
If you like those kind of things, have you seen any of the 1970s Ghost Stories for Christmas adaptations of M.R. James? If not, track them down.
Y'all have this thing over there that we don't have here. And it's like it has to be like a Brit thing or something like that, as opposed to an American thing. We don't tell scary stories to scare the crap out of our family members on Christmas.
we do. yeah.
Like that's like some Halloween stuff for us. It's like on Christmas it's all like joy and Santa and stuff, but then you're like, oh yeah, it's like how are our friends across the pond celebrating Christmas? It's like, what kind of story was that? It's like, I can't sleep now.
that's true, you know. I never really thought of that. We did. I don't know when that tradition started, the Christmas ghost story thing. It obviously goes way back.
Dickens, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, maybe with Dickens.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you think about it, it's probably like the most famous ghost story you can think of is A Christmas Ghost Story by Dickens. So
yeah.
It has to be that one. But yeah, it's like that since then. It's like it's become y'all's tradition to just scare the crap out of your kids so they can't sleep at night. And that's
It gets even worse if you go to Scandinavia.
Oh god, I went to Krampusnacht.
Yeah. Krampus.
That's a funny story. Like we just had some friends. They're over there right now, and they went to Krampusnacht. And my buddy's wife calls my wife, and she's just like, my thighs are hurting so bad because all those dudes in the Krampus outfits were drunk and just beating the crap out of everybody on the street. I think they went to Innsbruck. I think it was in Austria that they went to this one. But yeah, like they were like these drunk dudes were just running around. They're like, some of them were like tolerable and some of them were just like straight. They were like, it was like you were in prison or something. Like they were just beating these senseless with these twitches.
Yeah. Well, in Finland, they've got the Yule cat, which is a giant black cat that will come and eat your children if you don't give them new clothes for Christmas.
I don't know if I can afford clothes this year, so.
Well, yeah, we're all feeling the pinch, aren't we?
Like, sorry, guys. You know, I wanted to get you some new shoes, but yes, you know, bad luck.
Maybe it's just part of that tradition from like Grimm's fairy tales and all that sort of stuff. Because again, even as young kids, we were told the fairy tales, but not the Disney versions so much. You know,
no,
they're pretty dark.
Disney gave us such a rosy outlook.
Yeah,
like the sisters in Cinderella cutting off their toes to try and fit them in the glass slippers, things like that.
Yeah. Snow White, whereas like at the end they made the stepmother or the evil queen dance in like red hot shoes until she died.
That's the one. Yeah.
It was like, I don't remember seeing that in the cartoon.
Is it any wonder we turned out the way we did?
Exactly.
So once you got into Lovecraft, did you then start looking around at all the other authors? I mean, I think for most of us, well, for me, it was Robert E. Howard, then Lovecraft. Then you start finding Robert Bloch and Fritz Leiber and all thof those sort of people.
That was one of the crazy things, too, was because, you know, I kind of grew up, I guess you would say, like that kid that kind of grew up on like the digital age type of stuff, where it was like, okay, you're starting to come into, like you're getting like the Xboxes and like, you know, you had like the N64. So you had like the video games and you had like the movies from the 80s and the like 70s and the 80s that you thought were really awesome. And you didn't realize it was like Conan the Barbarian was Robert E. Howard and stuff like that. Like there's all these references that you see all throughout like pop culture and the like old movies and stuff like that were all stemming from Lovecraft, Howard, Clark Ashton Smith, like stuff like that. And then you didn't realize it, but then once you realize it, you're like, well, now I gotta dive straight in. Like I have to see what this is all about. and then it's so, like I said, it's like a rabbit hole. It's like once you start like getting into it, you're like, oh man, like this stuff is awesome. Like the old pulp era is just, it's so much fun. I don't know. There's something about it that touches a like soft spot in the heart, I guess.
Yeah, it seemed like a really creative time.
Yeah.
I mean, in general, in music and in film, you had the whole sort of German expressionism thing and Nosferatu and all that stuff. I guess even the Draculas and Frankensteins, they were what, sort of 1930s, weren't they? The Universal ones.
Yeah.
You had also had whole the Poverty Row Studios putting out all them brilliant horror movies like White Zombie and all that. I love all that stuff.
I mean, when you think about it, it was like it kind of came with like with the invention of being able to turn stories into movies. That was such a big leap forward. And then I feel like that sort of started to have an influence a lot up into like the 30s too. Is it's like now that stories could become movies, now you wanted your stories to seem like a movie to the readers and stuff. So it's like they can imagine it being like on film in front of them. Yeah. So it kind of like bumped everything forward. And the atmosphere of some of those old movies too, like the old Universal monster ones. Even in my books, that's something that I do is I have the Cthulhu mythos stuff, the atmosphere, but for each book, I'm changing it, and I'm kind of also trying to pay a little bit of homage to those old 1930s Universal monster things and stuff. So I kind of want to have that same feel in the atmosphere and stuff.
That brings us on nicely to the book then, because Tomb of the Black Pharaoh, your first novel, is that right?
Yeah.
And one thing about it, well, there's a couple of things, but one thing there is I can see it as a movie. You know, the way the plot moves and the descriptions and everything else. So, and it had that atmosphere about it. So how do you get from reading Lovecraft to writing Lovecraft?
So that was another thing was, even though I kind of got into the reading aspect of stuff later, I was always into writing. Like, and even in high school, it was like I was writing. I loved writing, but I was one of those writers, but never an author, I guess you'd say, where it's like I wrote, but nothing ever saw the light of day. Nothing was ever finished, anything like that. And even this book itself was not supposed to be a book. It was just sort of like, I guess you call it like an Easter egg that I tossed into another work in progress that I was writing. Just saying something about Danforth and World War II. It was that book was supposed to take place in the modern era, but then it was I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like with the modern era and like so much with like, like digital, like video surveillance stuff. Like the whole thing got so bloated that it became unbelievable. And like, that was one of the things I always liked about Lovecraft's stuff was that the writing was written from a perspective of like sort of like an educated person or somebody that you would think was at least semi-reliable as a narrator, and something unbelievable is happening to him. And even throughout the whole story, even though it's happening to him, they sort of refuse to believe that it's happening. But at a certain point, that piece of work I was working on got so bloated and over the top, I was like, there's no way that this is going to survive itself, I guess. So I just dropped it. But then I remembered that fun little piece of the story. So I actually entered it into a short story contest. It was because I just wanted to write it sort of from the perspective of Danforth as more like a World War II memoir is how I was kind of going about it. And it still is, but I entered into the shortened version. They said that they liked that and they wanted me to expand on it. I expanded it into a full novel, and then they were like, yeah, sorry, no. so I had my novel there and stuff like that. But it was like, I was like, you know what? This is the first time that I've ever actually finished a piece of work and stuff. So I was like, you know what? I felt like I'd finally gotten a flow down. And it was also kind of therapeutic too, because I like I said, like I've had my deployments and stuff like that. Like when I deployed to Afghanistan, I was with like Special Operations Task Force and stuff like that, and like some of this other stuff. So I had some issues with like post-traumatic stress, and
Sure.
I guess like I was kind of sitting there one day too, like just as I was writing the other one and thinking, I was like, you know what, it's like I got to do something constructive. I have to occupy myself. I need to think of build good habits, and not just sink into myself with like this like dark depression. So I just started writing, and even though that one fell through, I hopped on this one, and that motivation to try to be better like in life and everything like that kind of pushed me through to get it done. But it'll also allow me to kind of drop some of myself into the story and some of my like darker like sides. And I mean, and as the books go on, I think that's going to be my progression, is showing kind of like my own journey from, just kind of a lackadaisy type of look to like getting kind of darker and darker, and then trying to pull out of that.
Yeah.
It's interesting you brought up that thing about the modern world, because that is precisely why I set a lot of my stuff in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Because the first thing you got to do in a modern story is get rid of the goddamn mobile phone.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because this is another reason I decided to set everything out in the sticks as well, where there's no signal. Because nothing kills atmosphere more quickly than there was a spooky noise. I know, I'll pull out my phone and call the police.
I'll pull out my phone and I video it. So even if I get killed, there'll be evidence of whatever this unknown thing was.
Yeah.
And like all the other stuff too, where it's like, I feel like pre-World War II, I feel like World War II was kind of like the last, that was why I kind of had to set it where it was. With Danforth, it's actually like a direct sequel to Mountains of Madness.
Mm. I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a direct sequel, and he's young Danforth in Mountains of Madness, but now it's 10 years later, and he's had to kind of deal with that. But I was like, World War II is kind of where the last kind of feel of everything still having some mystery to it is, because after that you start getting into the Cold War, and the Cold War is where it's just even World War II itself, it's like some general couldn't go and take a piss without them documenting it and stuff like that. So it's like so much. There's like so much going on, but it's like there's still enough mystery there that I was able to work with it, especially with like researching and stuff. I try to keep everything historically accurate as possible, and but researching like the Nazis and like their obsession with the occult and stuff. Definitely, they gave me more than enough material to work with for a lifetime.
I wanted to ask you about that actually, because I've used like Himmler and the Annenberger in some of my stuff, particularly the Dunwich trilogy, because it is so, they're ripe for that, aren't they?
Yeah. Such a rich scene.
So either
it just slots in, but at the same time, I'm always aware when doing that. Obviously, there's a balance. So how did you go about that, getting that balance? I mean, no one is glorifying it, obviously, but
yeah, I feel like it was like I tried to really take what they were really doing and just sort of sub some of the stuff in, like take out some of the Nordic pagan or even satanic aspects of some of the stuff that they were doing, and just strictly sub in the like the Necronomicon and some of the Cthulhu mythos, because for the most part it's like the Nazi occultism thing almost writes itself.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. I did wonder as well if von Hexa was a reference to the film Hexen with the witches and stuff.
I cannot divulge.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
I can neither confirm nor deny such things, but if it makes that connection.
I also wonder as well, I think, at the Mountains of Madness is a prime example. We can go from that sort of Victorian era up to the 30s and 40s. It seems to be like an age of exploration, the polar expeditions, mountain climbers, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Then post World War II, everything seems to be more about paranoia.
Yes.
Oh, especially the Cold War. Yeah. I mean, that was just the paranoid era, wasn't it? That was exactly what it was.
Yeah. And like I said, that's when like you see like a serious, like the surveillance state happening, because it's like everybody's so paranoid about like either the West or the Soviet bloc, like spying on them and stuff. So it's like that, just more and more you're just seeing things where it's like everything's documented, everything's looked at. Like there's no more mystery, I feel like, surrounding everything, and no more like real exploration, unless the exploration seems to be done in the service of trying to like one up the other.
Even the moon landing stuff, I was talking about that this morning, funnily enough. It feels more like we need to get to the moon, not because it's a great exploration thing, but to beat the Russians.
Well, that was the whole point, the space race, right?
Yeah, like it really was. Like, it's not like it, I mean, like, it's like he steps out and he's like, one small step for man, one giant leap for all mankind, and they're putting the American flag up, but like the undertone is kind of like them like flipping the bird at like the USSR, like, fuck you, like, we made it first.
And then a moon beast ate him, but they don't show you that bit, obviously.
Yeah. Wasn't it like moon rocks that were dragging them off or something like that? I don't know if you've seen that movie. horrible movie. But
so just a quick overview of the book. Obviously, we don't want to give any spoilers away, but we got the character Robert Danforth, and I think it's nice that the book is written in his voice, because then we get that first person perspective on all the weird shit that's happening to him, and he's working. I guess it's like a sort of type of OSS, right, or Secret Service.
Yeah. So the OSS didn't get started until kind of mid 1942. So when he gets started, is really right in the wake of Pearl Harbor, when the U.S. finally got involved in the war. Because, nothing was going on before we got there. We know that. And obviously everything starts when America gets there. But it was kind of one of those ones where it's like I was really trying to keep that history. So before the OSS started, it was the Office of the Coordinator of Information. It took too long to say, I guess, so they just abbreviated it down or something. But yeah, so then eventually became the OSS, but it was kind of a weird start. It started out less as that thing that I guess you guys over in Britain had, the SOE, like Special Operations Executive, doing a lot of.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time the U.S. got there and stuff, the SOE was already doing some really hardcore stuff. I mean, we're talking like insurgencies and like intelligence, but they were I guess you'd call like the tip of the spear, top-notch like operations. So when we got there, it was sort of more in like a support role, but then because of how our guys were working with the SOE, Colonel Donovan had to turn it into the OSS and basically model it off of the way that the SOE was running. And you see a lot of that with the American military at World War II and after. So many things were based on the model that was provided to us by you guys over in the UK. Like the SAS provided the model for like Delta and stuff like that, like the British Commandos, the Rangers. So it was the way that the model was built. So that I felt like I really needed to like include a lot about the SOE to get that feel and background that it's like, Danforth's getting there, but he's kind of just flying off the seat of his pants. Like the SOE's kind of got all the information. They got everything. Like pretty much it's just the U.S. just sending him there because they're just hearing things and like, it's like, hey, we need you to go there and take care of it. It's like, okay, I guess I'll just show up and see how things go or something. And that was something about Lovecraft's writing. I felt like a lot of the characters that you see are, they're dropped into certain scenarios, kind of like not really knowing what it is that they're getting into. And I felt like that was part of the fun of writing it, was having that sort of like, okay, what am I getting into and how bad is this getting? And when does it end?
I thought that aspect of it came across very well as well. I mean, there's a couple of things. Where I live here, we're about 10 minutes drive away from a place called Tempsford, which was the airfield where SOE agents were flown out to their missions. So there's a lot of that history around here. They've got a museum there, and it's a very interesting place to visit.
That's awesome.
And also, my great uncle Harry, my grandmother's brother, was in military intelligence in North Africa during the war.
Oh, that's cool.
So obviously, as kids, we didn't really hear much, and it's one of those things you hear more stories later on, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So those aspects of the book, and again, maybe that ties in with your obviously your previous experience as well, came across as very realistic to me.
Oh yeah, because so when I deployed to Afghanistan, I was in I think the British military has something semi similar to it, but it was a long range reconnaissance company. So like ours was like we were sort of like an infantry wing of military intelligence. They attached us to Special Operations Executive, sorry, the Special Operations Task Force, which was like Green Berets and like some law enforcement, and we were training like Afghan commandos. So like our bread and butter was intelligence gathering and recon. So I had to try to put myself into like a single man recon aspect again, and try to get back into like I guess that swing of things and stuff like that, but also try to address it on how it would have been done during World War II, where you didn't have certain things of like technology, or if you had the technology, it was really really crude. Like that stuff where it's like the radios, right? They were like, oh yeah, this is a radio that SOE agents used to carry and stuff like that, and they called it like the agent killer because they were basically carrying around like a freaking suitcase with like 45 pounds of radio equipment in there and stuff. Like, it's like, yeah, no one's going to notice that.
Which, funnily enough, was the roots of James Bond and all that stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
Fleming, of course, was involved in all that, you know.
I don't want to spoil stuff, but it's like as I've been writing the books, I've been trying now to incorporate certain key figures in history that are a little bit known, like so you had like Ian Fleming, Christopher Lee, people like that.
Nice.
That were there and doing all this stuff. So I'm like, why miss out on the chance? It's like, if you're going to get into this world, why miss out on the chance to highlight that some of these people were actually there and doing this stuff?
Interestingly, I was actually in a pub over in Portsmouth the other week, which was it was where Buster Crabbe had stayed on the night that he went on his mission and disappeared.
Oh wow!
And apparently, the pub is haunted by the ghost of Buster Crabbe. Apparently,
is it?
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of haunted pubs over there. What is going on?
Oh, we have. Yeah, they all have.
pretty much all of them. I've haunted a few myself.
Right. Every place you turn to is like haunted, or like might be haunted, or there was a bar fight there in some ways. So.
I did hear a comment once from some American visitors, and they were saying to the people, "Oh, you know, your house is really lovely," and she goes, "Yeah, it's 300 years old." And the woman sort of said, "Couldn't you afford a new one?"
It's not the point. It was funny when I was working for a private security firm. They were also hiring ex-British military and police and stuff like that for this firm. And the background investigator was so funny. He said that it's like they were asking us questions about our background, you know, criminal history and stuff like that. And he's like, it's so difficult with the Brits. He's like, I don't talk to any single one of them who haven't been in a bar fight at least one time in their life. I was like, oh, that's great.
It's a rite of passage. It's especially me and him are from different ends of the country, but the same place, if you know what I mean. You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Friday night in the pub was
outside the chippy usually on a Friday night.
My roots are from Scotland. Like I still got family over there, and that's what they say too. Is they're like you're not Scottish until you've gotten into a pub fight.
Yeah,
like that's
nice.
I think fair. So it's on my bucket list. I just hope I don't end up in jail.
I think that idea, and I love that, you know, putting real people in. That's a very Lovecraftian thing, particularly with the books, right, where the Necronomicon gets put in the list along with all the real stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I really loved about the book as well is the language. You've really got the feel of the Lovecraftian language, I think, without it being too dry. Or some people often say that Lovecraft is very dense and difficult to read. So For me, it was easy to read, but you really got that Lovecraftian tone. So how did you do that?
That was my thesaurus tool going absolutely batshit crazy.
Nice.
It was one thing where it was like I felt like I had to sort of do, and like I said, the thesaurus and like all that is like I tried to get it long-winded. I really did. I was like, that's one of the things about Lovecraft that's sort of like the staple when you're reading it, is you're like, was that paragraph just one single sentence?
Oh, yeah.
Try reading it out loud. I did the festival one Christmas. Oh.
And dude, it's like that's why it's like, even though it's like I'm a super big fan of Lovecraft, a lot of times I have to listen to his stuff in audiobook form, because when I'm actually like reading it to myself, I'm like, okay, I feel like I just got lost a second. It's like, and I've read this book 3 times. It's like it's like I feel like I kind of get lost in the writing. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to get a little bit of like the descriptiveness and the long-windedness and stuff like that. I wanted to have those moments and stuff where I tried to use more Lovecraftian stuff and like build up moments, because I felt like that was one of the things that Lovecraft's writing does really, really well, is just like the building and the building and the building. So when you feel that tension and his descriptiveness starts coming in, that's great. But then what I tried to do also is, once the like moments of actual action started, I tried to tone it down just a little bit and be, instead of like the big long sentences, more short sentences, more like abrupt stuff.
Well, what you've done there is actually how you do a literary jump scare. I read a study on this a while ago, and going back to The Woman in Black, that was the example, because there's one bit in that where it's apparently the longest sentence in literature, and it's a huge entire paragraph, one sentence, and then after, when the ghost appears, it's short staccato rhythm. It's short sentences, snappy and staccato. And there's a reason for that. It's because when you're reading in your head, even though you're not speaking out loud, if you're into it, your breathing goes as if you were speaking aloud.
Mm-hmm.
So you're holding your breath, and then you're hyperventilating.
Yeah. And the thing I also used a lot is I wear the M dash to death. I leave that thing like in the morning with like its underwear in its hand and just like look of shame on its face, like just going on.
It's like you and semicolons, Rob.
I know. And commas.
Oh, I'm commas. I just machine gun commas.
Like I was like reading it at one point. I was like, "Dang, man!" It's like I'm really. Okay, I need to cut that one out. So I'm like having to go through and like re-edit sentences. I'm like, you can't use it every sentence, dude. Like you can't.
Yeah, that's right. You got to have beta readers and a proofreader, and that's I'm lucky. Like Lara, my wife, does a lot of mine, and she just crosses out comma, cross that out. You've said that already. That word, you know.
You guys are gonna hate me. I edited mine on my own.
Wow.
I do a lot of my own editing, but
My initial rollout of my book was an absolute nightmare, because I finished it rapid fire. Like I said, because I started as a short story, I wanted to expand it into a longer version, because I was thinking it was going to get it published. So I rolled it out, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do self-publishing, and that's the way so I put it out there, and like some people like read like the old versions and stuff like that. And like some people were like, oh man, like there's like too much. I have a bad habit sometimes where I think Lovecraft was bad at this too. It's like you pick a favorite word and you use it as many times as humanly possible in the story.
Yeah.
Eldritch,
Cyclopean, yeah. Gibbous.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay though in a short story where like Call of Cthulhu, where it's only like, a few pages long.
Sure.
But when you've got something that's like a 400-page novel and you've used it 98 times or something, it's like, gets a little old. So I got feedback in my early versions after publishing. So I had to edit myself and then republish everything and stuff. So it definitely, I did everything kind of on the seat of my pants, and, a lot of mistakes were made and I think learned from now. So that when the next one comes out, hopefully it's a little bit smoother.
But that's the beauty of self-publishing is it allows you that process, and especially now. I mean, I use Ingram Spark, and they recently changed things so you can go back and edit and re-upload without any charge.
Yeah.
Whereas before, you had to kind of pretty much start from fresh again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great. I've gone through certain of my things and redone them and tidied them up, and you can put them back out. But it's this thing. It's like the music mix. It's never finished, is it? It's always surrendered.
Yeah.
I even now I'll read it and people are like, oh, it was great and stuff like that. And they like the finished product, but I'll read it and I'm like, oh man, I probably could have written that part differently or like.
Of course. Yeah.
Oh, we've talked about this many times because, like, you go back and read you because we both put out short story collections and various novels and things like that. You go back and read the early ones and you go, oh,
yeah. I've had that a couple times. It's like, yeah. Only thing that you're thinking to yourself is like, okay, well, at least nobody who read that knows how fucked up that is. But okay,
yeah, exactly.
I wanted to ask you about the mythos aspect as well, because there's obviously, of course, a lot of mythos stuff thrown in from Irem, the Plateau of Leng. There might be a certain Egyptian-themed god. Nefren-Ka. I mean, we can talk about Nefren.
There we go, Nefren-Ka.
That starts with the outsider, right? I think Nefren-Ka and the Tokris. So how much research did you do on the mythos aspect?
Oh, ad nauseum. Like it was... that was one of the things that I wanted to do was so after, like we all know, it's like after Lovecraft's death, his mythos was expanded upon by Derleth and all of them.
Yep.
But what I really wanted to do was I felt like after his death and like with Derleth's work, you see a lot of the mythos where it kind of gets expanded and certain like attributes are thrown in. And I feel like it kind of loses a little bit of the quality that made Lovecraft's original writing, like the way that it was. So what I wanted to do was I was like, you know what? It's like, I'm not going to go off of anything after Lovecraft's death. I'm going to stick to the original Lovecraft writings and his circle that he had written in. You still had like, while he was alive, like Robert Bloch and him were writing like stories back and forth, almost making fun of each other and stuff like that. And they had a lot of like really good ones and stuff while he was alive, and same from like Robert E. Howard and all them. So I wanted to stick kind of with that original circle, just like prior to his death, right? And with the research, it's like one of the cool things about Lovecraft is he doesn't ever explain anything. Like he doesn't really get into the meat and potatoes, so it leaves you a lot of workable room to make a really cool story out of that. But then you also have to go through the same thing of like, that was why that one original work I was talking about kind of fell through, was it's like, I think Lovecraft even said, he was like, the less people know about things, the scarier it is. So I wanted to get into that, but also not give so much information that it's like, okay, well now everybody knows all the information through exposition or something, and now it's no longer scary because you know everything about it.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was what I tried to kind of stick with, was tying it all together was kind of a difficult one too, because you have like the Cthulhu mythos, you have Irem, you have Nefren-Ka and all of that stuff, and it all kind of takes place in that one area of the world, and like Egypt, the Middle East, and stuff like that. So I was like, how can we tie all of this together? With like the Nameless City and like Nefren-Ka, the Haunter of the Dark, things like that.
Yeah, because I did actually want to ask you how much Robert Bloch went into it, because he vastly expanded that side of the mythos while Lovecraft was still alive, because Lovecraft did bits and pieces, but didn't really go way into the Egyptian side of it with Irem and all that, but Bloch then came along with things like the Faceless God, and Pain of the Black Pharaoh and all that kind of business, because that's something I've tunneled into in my work as well.
Bloch was really instrumental in it, because like I said, it's like I even kind of used some characters that were kind of in like the Haunter of the Dark and stuff like the Enoch Bowen and like I said, like then they have like the Nameless City and all that. So it really it was really instrumental. It's one of those ones where it's like, I want people to be able to read it, and Lovecraft fans will know that, oh, these things tie together. But I wanted it to also be something where people could read it without necessarily always knowing a ton about Lovecraftian mythos, still enjoy it, but then maybe, maybe a light bulb might kick on where they're like, oh, maybe I'll look into that. And then from that, just like they can go diving into the mythos too, but not be completely lost reading the story.
It is a little bit like, to me, investigators in the story themselves. You get these little bits of information, and you suddenly start to realize the more you get into it, you start to see all these connections. It's I always go to Tolkien as my opposite for this, where everything is so, back to the year dot. Everything is so regimented. How could you write fan fiction in that universe?
Oh man!
Whereas this, it's like you can take little snippets and just subtly link them together. It just feels much more real to me.
Tolkien is one of those ones where so that's one of the two things I say is like, I love Lovecraft and Tolkien are like my two big favorite artists, but it's like they're so vastly different in how they write everything that they do. And I mean, even like with Tolkien, it's like I love everything, like all things Tolkien. I've read all of his stuff, just everything that was put out after his death by his son. I love it, but there are times when you're like, okay, man, like let's pick it up here a little bit. Or I saw something recently where somebody said that people hated going on walks with the professor because he would stop at like every tree and like stare at it for like 20 minutes or something. And people are like, well, that explains the books then. It was like, yeah, that does. I mean, and you're reading Lord of the Rings, like you're like, oh my God, dude, I get it. They're walking. All right, you know what? It's like, I'm going to skip a couple of pages. And then you skip a couple of pages and you're like, oh, okay, here we go. Wait, Gandalf died? Like, what the hell happened? Yeah, it's like, then you go back and you realize the action scene was only like one paragraph long or something like that. And you're like, oh man, it was like you did me dirty on that one.
As opposed to Lovecraft and that great, I think it's in one of the letters, isn't it, where he was taking his lady friend, or Clark Ashton Smith's lady friend, around the cemetery.
Mrs. Sully's daughter
in Providence, and started telling the spooky stories in a vampire voice.
In a graveyard.
In a graveyard.
And he didn't look like a vampire at all, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Has anyone ever done Lovecraft as a vampire? That's a shoe-in, I would have thought, isn't it, really?
Yeah. I know people have done Poe, because they had a similar sort of dour look to them. So I'm surprised nobody's done Lovecraft if they haven't. Yeah.
I feel like it's like doing a vampire would almost be like a disservice to him in a way, though, because it's like, obviously after he died, he just went back where he came from. Yeah. Like but with Lovecraft, I love his letters, though. You have like the kind of boring, kind of like just droning on, like, okay, dude, we get it. You had a bad day. But then sometimes it's like, it gets to like, hilarious. Like, I think it was when Mountains got turned down by Weird Tales or something. He what was the guy's name? It was like Farnsworth.
Farnsworth, right?
Yeah. And but then he's like calling him like Little Farney and stuff like that because he's all angry that he turned it down. I was like, dang, man. He's like, he gets mad and he gets to like some like Donald Trump level of like insulting people and stuff.
Farnabesius, wasn't it?
Farnabesius, yeah. Farnabesius, right.
Yeah. Like, oh, that little Farney, man. I heard he peed sitting down.
Have you ever read The Battle That Ended the Century? It was co-written between Robert Barlow and H.P. Lovecraft. One Christmas, they sat down together and wrote it. And it's basically just them using all the pseudonyms for all of the people they knew and taking the piss out of everyone.
No, I haven't. That sounds great. They're just shitting on everybody.
Yeah, basically. Even two gun Bob turns up in there and all this. The High Priest Clark Ashton and all this.
Okay, you're gonna have to send me a link if you can find something like that, because that's gonna be hilarious. I'm gonna have to read that.
I actually did a reading of it one Christmas. It's on the thing, yeah.
But I'll sort the link out to that.
I found it weird that like with Lovecraft, with his beliefs, he's very kind of atheistic, but he loved Christmas.
Yeah.
Like he had like almost like a obsession with it. So I was like, that's very interesting. I don't know if maybe it was like the cultural stuff from like, you know, it's like he was definitely like an Anglophile. He loved all things like British culture and things like that. So I'm wondering if maybe that's something where it, you know, just that kind of spirit of Christmas was hitting him, and even though it's like he really didn't believe in like the basis of it.
I think he definitely was into his community. It's almost like he made his own community. I mean, he used to send people little verses at Christmas, right? And all that sort of stuff.
Well, I actually covered it this Christmas for our Christmas reading thing. I did a whole thing on the circle at Christmas, and my highlight of it was the little verses and cards that he sent to Frank Belknap Long's cat.
His cat?
Yeah, he wrote little poems, Christmas poems to Frank Belknap Long's cat.
I wonder if anybody wanted to write letters to his cat.
I would say not.
That's an awkward title to have to put on the postcard for Christmas.
That's the odd thing, that other side of him. You know, it seems hard to reconcile sometimes how you could have that sort of views and yet, you know, I don't know, strange character.
I wonder if he, I was having this conversation with somebody a few days ago, and it was like, as I read his stuff, and as you start to, I think it's like where his views on like race and like immigrants and things like that, it came from like a very sheltered life, like with his mom and all the other weird, like the weird shit where he was just locked away from the world. So he was very, you know, just afraid and sick and just paranoid about everything. But I did notice with his writing, as the years kind of go on and he becomes friends with these other writers and stuff, I don't want to say he necessarily renounced his beliefs, but you can kind of start to see changes in him and the way that he kind of approaches those types of subjects. And even before his death, like as World War II, it hadn't happened yet, but like when Hitler started taking over Germany, he did not have very, like toward his death, he did not have very kind words about him. He said he was a big clown and things like that. And he had a great many Jewish friends and stuff that were authors. So I felt like had he not died prematurely, you know, you can never assume anything about anyone, but I think maybe it's like it would have been a thing as he went along. Maybe his views might have changed, because it seemed like as he became more friends with an outside circle and got out of especially his depression at one point, like he was almost suicidal. He seemed like as he came out of that and started writing and like getting more expanded, I definitely think he seems like he was becoming a little bit more world.
Yeah.
I think, and he did travel far more widely than people might imagine. There's always that image of him as the hermit. But, I mean, he travelled far more widely than Smith or Robert E. Howard, for example. So I wonder, again, if that had some influence on him, because, you know, travel broadens the mind, as they say. He
came down here to Key West at one point. I tried to research and find out where he stayed. And I couldn't figure out, because I don't think he ever actually specifically said in his letters like where he was staying, but like he wanted to see like Ernest Hemingway's place and stuff like that down in Key West. So he was down in this area, and that's where I think you can see like his writing and his views on things as he decides to travel and really get outside of that real paranoid, like real weird kind of xenophobic zone. He really starts to kind of change in the way that his writing is.
Yeah.
I think didn't he write a letter to Smith from Florida about he visited a crocodile farm and watched
alligators.
Feeding chickens to alligators or something.
Oh yeah, they got those all over the place in Florida. It's great. Florida's an interesting place.
Is that a setting you might use in the future? It's like everyone develops their own mythos setting, you know, as from Ramsey Campbell onwards.
As funny as it is, I actually got a book right here. It's a friend of mine. His name is Robbie Dorman, and he's part of the Horror Writers Association, and he wrote this little one. It's called what dwells beneath the waves, and it takes place down here in the Florida Keys, and it's very Lovecraftian. It's like even the front, it's kind of hard to see, but even the front has like the deep ones and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's a nice cover.
Yeah, it's really cool looking. Like I saw it, I was like, oh shit, I got to get that one.
That's going on the list.
Yeah, that's going on the list. Yeah.
But yeah, like I mean, there's so many cool places. Like I think one of the things is like the reason I chose World War II is because Europe always has such a deep, rich history and stuff like that. But here in the States, there's still a lot of very interesting places that you can find. It's like you just got to look.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a lot of interesting spots, a lot of haunted spots too.
Oh yeah.
And if you fail to find those in Florida, which you shouldn't, then there's always Florida Man that'll freak you out. So
Florida
Man.
Yep. Like,
I know what he's on about.
Yeah. I don't know that.
Have you not seen all the memes?
You gotta look it up. So it's like on the news, there's always something where, like, my favorite was if you put in Florida Man and your birthday, it'll pop up an article with something ridiculous. So it was like, mine was like, Florida man with no hand stabs his roommate with a pair of scissors. like my wife's was my favorite. It was like, Florida man arrested after flashing his buttocks in IHOP after impersonating a police officer in order to get free food. like you like read the headline, you're like, whoa, hold on. Like there's a lot to unpack. And just in that, it's like, let's start from crime number one in that single sentence.
This sounds like I've got a whole new rabbit hole opening up here. I've been totally.
Oh, it's hilarious, mate. It's really funny. Yeah.
If you thought that there was a low that could be sunk to, just type in Florida man. You'll be like, and the bar just went down.
Oh, we like that. We like Lyra in the bar, don't we?
Oh God, yeah. I'm always amazed when you do that. How many of them involve swimming pools?
Oh yeah.
It's always like Florida man and 6 chickens in a swimming pool. What?
So I can say it because it's like we were in on it, but so like I said, it's like I'm a federal agent, but sometimes we back up local law enforcement. And the other day, one of my buddies goes to back up. They said that there's some guy driving all over the road, hitting cones and stuff like that. So he's going to respond to him. But all the other local cops are caught in traffic. Well, this guy pulls into a parking lot, and I could hear it over the radio. They're like, he's out dancing to music right now. He's wearing a construction hard hat and nothing else. Like he's completely nude. And like they said, like they were tackling, he was like, he had like a big old bong or a pipe or something that he was smoking out of, and so like they were like tackling this dude naked, but like as they were doing that, he was fighting to get like one more hit out of his pipe or something. Like it was like naked with a hard hat on, like it's like, oh God.
Oh, marvelous.
You're just like, oh man. It's like if you're ever lacking entertainment, just type Florida man in there and you're good to go.
Well, this is your truth is stranger than fiction department, right?
Isn't it? Yeah.
How do you top reality, really? Sometimes I almost see like the mythos as a retreat.
Oh, especially in the current climate, I do. I don't. Looking at the news, that's the existential horror, isn't it?
Oh my God, man! Like you want to turn into just like an absolute rage monster, man. Just get on social media with the news, and it's like, and if the news isn't bad enough, some people have absolutely like brain dead takes on it and stuff in the comments. Like you're just like, oh my God, man! Like people like you really exist. Like,
you have to, you're rushing yourself. Like Lara didn't watch news for 3 weeks, you know, and even myself, I found I was spending time on Facebook doing this and that, and I thought, what am I doing this for? You know, I could be writing or something or doing something, but you get sucked in, don't you? You know.
Yeah. And it's like, and does it actually change the world that you just had like the biggest like Twitter fight with some jerk who like didn't want to accept anything that you said? It's like, and then finally when he like you feel like he won because it's like you just reached an impasse and he blocked you. Do you think to yourself afterwards like, oh yeah, I just did the world a service. Like, no. It's like, no, you didn't. It's like that jerk still believes what he believes. You still believe what you believe, and you spent 2 hours arguing.
Exactly. It's probably a bot anyway. You know, I'm sure that there's probably AI bots arguing backwards and forwards between themselves on there. It's
oh, dude, it's bad.
I mean, that kind of ties in, but again, we've spoken about this before, especially with authors like Charles Stross, right? Mm-hmm. You can bring that mythos element in.
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely.
This is Nyarlathotep spreading chaos through technology.
Yeah.
Well, that's precisely what Stross did with like the third and fourth books in his Laundry Files. Yeah. He was basically Nyarlathotep was a British politician.
So I got to ask too. It's like since we were talking about the weirdos in my neck of the woods and stuff like that. How accurate is like that Grimsby movie and stuff with Sacha Baron Cohen? Is like, are the people in Grimsby actually like the soccer hooligan freaks that they had in that?
Yes,
they're everywhere. they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Pubs with flat roofs.
Uh-huh.
If you go into a council estate pub that's got a flat roof, you'll meet them, guaranteed.
Oh, good. I'm putting it. No, I'm going. You can't stop me. I have to see it. I like, what was it? The thing where like the guys with like the guns were after him and stuff. Like, and then he like tells those kids, he's like, "Hey, you see those guys out there?" He's like, "They're Manchester United fans," and even the kids like, "Those twats, show up here." Like,
I lived for a while out in the East Anglian Fens, which is, considering England's a relatively small place, it's a very remote kind of area.
Yeah.
And I had a friend come to visit, and he drove through the next village up the road called like Spaldwick or something like that. And he drove through, and he was the only car. There were no cars parked, and he said as he drove through, everyone stopped and looked at him.
Oh, God. It's like Innsmouth.
He just put his foot down.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, it's a car.
Well, back to that soccer hooligan thing, right? One of my favourite stories about my hometown is a friend of mine I went to school with. His dad was involved with the football club in some way, and he ended up doing mascot work on the weekend. Right, and my football team are known as the Silkmen. So he dressed up like a giant silkworm, and I picked up the newspaper, the local newspaper, one Wednesday afternoon, and there's a picture on the front, right, and the headline was "Silky the Silkworm arrested for assault," and he's there dressed as a giant silkworm punching a Stockport City, Stockport Town fan in the face on the front of the paper. So yeah.
Oh, Silky, you've let yourself down there, Silky.
I know.
Should have been a scene in the festival.
Oh, dear. Yeah. It's like, wow, man, you've declaimed yourself in public.
Oh.
American football ain't much better. It's like you can almost guarantee any team that wins the Super Bowl, it's like the people are going to riot in their hometown. Wow. They're like turning cars over in the street and stuff. Like, oh my God, man. Like, just stop, please.
It's weird, isn't it? It's really weird.
It's just letting off steam. Just letting off a bit of steam.
Like, what steam is there to let off? Your team just won, bro. It's like, you don't need to set fire to a car.
It's a mystery to me. So I think that the book will say you get this very cinematic sense from it, and obviously people are going to say Indiana Jones. There's, I guess, the same area. So if it was made into a movie, which could happen, I guess, would you have any ideas for casting? Who would you cast as Danforth? Do you think when you create a character like that, do you have a person in mind?
I did kind of have a little bit of like that Indiana Jones type of thought to him, but also it's like with Danforth, I tried to, I don't want to say tone down the masculinity and stuff like that, but I wanted to like kind of think more of like along the lines where it's like, like Indiana Jones is like, he's like knocking people out and like all this other stuff. And I kind of wanted Danforth to have sort of like that same adventurous side, but way more novice, it's like his, he kind of came from, he did the Antarctic expedition, stuff like that, but it's like he's kind of coming from like a rich, Miskatonic, like educated background.
Yeah.
And I think he's more like just kind of trying to like seek knowledge through obsession, as opposed to kind of like the Indiana Jones thing where it's like he's out there, like almost like a mercenary in a way, where he's like getting paid to like recover all these different artifacts and stuff. So I wanted to have just a tiny bit less tough guy and more kind of like I think that's going to build over time as like World War II progresses, is going to be a progression for him too, where it's like starting out, completely new guy, unaware of anything that's really going on and having to kind of, baptism by fire. And then by the time World War II ends, he's going to be more kind of like that grizzled veteran who's been there from the beginning and kind of taking it in. But as far as casting goes, I don't know. Like, maybe almost kind of like maybe like a little bit of like Chris Pratt type of person, but it's kind of hard to describe. It's, one of the things that I do like is when you have some really brilliant actors these days, they can really surprise you in certain roles that you really didn't think were meant for them. I said this, like, even though I really don't like him as an actor, like Timothy Chalamet in Dune.
All right.
I thought he actually did a fairly decent job, because when I thought of like Paul Atreides from Dune, I really did not think of that guy, but he did a fairly decent job. So I really don't know. It would be kind of a cool thing to see, but I mean, that's you're giving me a big head thinking that it would be made into a movie, bro.
Well, you never know. You never know. Well, there's that Indiana Jones thing, but this is a lot less swashbuckly than it. This is more serious in that sense, if I can put it that way.
That was something I did intentionally. It was like even with the action sequences, I didn't want it to sound kind of like, I guess you could call it like that, the pulp sense of that time and stuff, when they had like all the heroes and like Indiana Jones and like this, like, like, oh, it just comes so natural, like beating the crap out of like these Nazi SS guys and like all that. I was even trying to, when he was in these action sequences, kind of portray that feeling of him being scared and really not, kind of more going just purely off of like adrenaline and instinct, and trying to kind of keep his training together, but feeling like he can be very overwhelmed and stuff. And sometimes it's like it's only purely based on the circumstance that he ends up surviving the encounter, instead of like, like him. And I mean, it comes from like my experience too. It's like, if I wanted to make it more realistic in that sense, where it's like, Indiana Jones and some of these other movies, they always have the thing where it's like one guy is able to kill like, 8 dudes in a gunfight who can't seem to hit the broadside of a barn and like, all that stuff. I was like, okay, let's take this from like my realistic perspective. If you are one person and 5 people are shooting at you, you're going to die. Like, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Like, it's like you're toast. So what would happen in a situation where it's like you have all these guys like shooting at you or trying to do something? It's like, well, your best avenue right there is you need to find a way to get away, or you need to find a way to, get to help, or you need to just flat out like escape. If it's just you, like, get out of there. So I tried to take it in that serious aspect, and like I said, like be a lot less on the swashbuckly, like, kicking ass, taking names type of thing, and more like the, this is a guy who just jumped in way over his head, and there's like, German agents who have been fighting since, 1939 and stuff. They got years of combat under their belt, and you just arrived. Like, so you might want to keep your head down.
No, that certainly comes across, and I think that's then what gives it the edge. Indiana Jones in a movie, he can be kicked out of an aeroplane at 2,000 feet, and you think, oh, how's he gonna get out of this? He's gonna grab something, going to grab an eagle's legs or something, and
Yeah, no, it's just a life raft.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's why I always liked the Red Dwarf pastiche of that with Ace Rimmer, when he comes out of the plane and he ends up surfboarding on an alligator.
Could happen.
Is it any less realistic than surviving falling 2,000 feet out of a plane from a life raft and just like landing all nice and smooth.
True.
It's like, no, you was splattered, even if it was snow, bro.
Yeah, pancake. Yeah.
And I guess there's a certain amount that it's like you're always going to have to do a little bit of bending and expand a little bit of the disbelief because of the plot. But I tried to make it so it's like it didn't. I don't know what would be a way to say it. It's like if Critical Drinker were reviewing it or something like that. It's like how badly would it get torn apart for all the plot holes or something.
And you've mentioned, of course, this is the first in the series. I believe you got a sequel coming out that starts in Romania. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. That's and like I said, I'm trying to do like kind of like those. It kind of changes a bit of the atmosphere to each one. So the next one is Romania, and I'm going to have more like that gothic, kind of the darker feel, and it's definitely kind of getting more darker in terms of the plot. And then I'm going to be taking it from there to, I already have like a third one that I'm working on as I'm finishing up the second one. And wow. It's going to be kind of going to the China, Burma, India theater. One of the things that I also tried to do too is just like, you see World War II, like historical fantasies, like all this stuff, they always kind of go to like the exact same place. They're always going to the same places over and over. Same like Indiana Jones and stuff like that. So yeah. I wanted to go to places of World War II that were much less known.
Yeah.
So it kind of had to start out in Egypt, and I felt like because of like the mythos and how much centers in that area of the world and stuff like that, I felt like it was like, okay, like let's start there. But then going to like Romania and other places, like there's so many places in the mythos that like Lovecraft loved. Places that were far flung and unexplored and stuff like that. So that was what I wanted to do, was like, instead of going to these places where everybody and their brother is already there and fighting and stuff like that, let's take it to places where it's remote. There's fighting there, but there's also a lot of like danger to it. Like, I mean, I think so you probably know from like the museum near you, there was a lot of like the British military fighting the Japanese in like Burma and China and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, one of my great uncles was out in Burma.
Yeah, so it's like there's a lot going on there, but it seems to be one of those theaters of World War II that goes completely like under the radar, and not a whole lot of people really think about it.
And I think also in those places you have that ancient temple kind of set up, old civilizations,
Oh yeah,
overgrown, vine-covered temples and all that sort of thing going on.
Oh yeah, there's no. Again, it sort of writes itself, right? It's like there's no shortage of. I mean, even now, it's like even with the way it's like everything's surveilled, everything's satellite photographed. They're still finding hidden temples out there in the jungles and stuff like that. So it's like, of course, it's going to be out there.
Oh yeah.
Well, certainly look forward to seeing that, and we highly recommend, if anyone hasn't read it yet, do get hold of a copy of Tomb of the Black Pharaoh. Available in all good bookshops, and some probably not very good bookshops as well.
Yeah. I think Innsmouth bookshop might be carrying it. I don't know. It's like they might be using it as toilet paper. Who knows?
Well,
as long as
Innsmouth bookshop's an interesting place. If you can get into the back room, then that's where all the good stuff is, in the back room. But,
yeah. That's where those erotic cosmic horrors are being like churned at.
That's where I curate.
Yeah.
Well, I hear Mr. Sergeant is pulling up in his bus outside, so it's time for us to leave. Christopher, of course, as a guest, gets to spend the night in the Gilman Hotel. You might want to take some precautions. You've played the game, so you know what to do, right?
I think it's like, as long as I just secure the bolts, they'll take enough time breaking the door down that I should be able to get away.
Yeah. Secure the bolts, push that little dresser thing over.
Yeah, the dresser in there.
Yeah.
Because we all know that like that just immediately stops the door from opening inward and stuff.
That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah, that's enough. That's enough to stop a 7 foot tall deep one, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be all right.
Well, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, Christopher. Thanks very much for coming in, and good luck with all your works in the future.
All right, thanks so much.
So there we are. Let's just finish up today with a quick delve into the mailbag, shall we, sir? I believe we had a few messages in on YouTube.
Indeed, yeah. The first one is from Aaron Vleck. Fun facts. The Rust Belt in the US refers to 9 states in the Midwest and Northeast that suffered a collapse of industry in the late 20th century and had nothing to do with the gold rush. I grew up in the gold rush area, and it was more than common to see the skeletal remains of gold rush and mining technology everywhere, all rusted out. Hence the logical conclusion of it being the Rust Belt. Newburyport, where I spent countless vacations as an adult, is not a beautiful, wholesome, antiquated and dining destination, and as you said yourself, if you don't promote yourself, nobody will. I have several Lovecraftian stories on ghastly tales, and now a series of tales on horror babble exclusively that are set in Innsmouth and surrounding areas, where I take the Deep One's point of view, and I've been examining the Deep Ones as possibly a matriarchal society. Well, that's interesting. I have 3 up there on horror babble now, and I'm working on another in the series. And these are all free, nothing to buy, and can be listened to anywhere. Both Ghastly Tales and Horror Babble are out of the UK. Yeah, that's interesting. Mother Hydra. Yeah, Mother Hydra.
Yes, exactly. Thanks for that, Aaron. And I'm going to sort out the links and put those up in the show notes below so people can go and see those on YouTube. And also, speaking about our last episode, Innsmouth Tales, we have Max I Am wrote in, great episode as always, boys. I get very excited every time I see an upload notification.
That's good to know.
Thank you.
That's good to know. Not people just going, oh no, not these idiots again.
And DT1458 wrote, love the collection of stories in the Weird Shadows over Innsmouth book. Yeah, those Weird Shadows, I think there's 3, isn't there, in the series? Excellent. One of the best collections out there,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, Shadows over Innsmouth, Weird Shadows over Innsmouth, and Weirder Shadows over Innsmouth.
Yeah, and number 4 is going to be Weirderer Shadows over Innsmouth.
Weirderer.
Yeah. So thanks for those messages, folks. Do keep them coming in. We always like to hear from you. And of course, if you want to support the show, do check out our Patreon page where you can sign up as a member. I do want to say welcome. We've got a new patron, Coman, otherwise known as Scorm the Dragon. Nice name. Nice. Of course, when you sign up as a patron, you get exclusive bonus content and you get the quarterly Innsmouth News newsletter and, of course, free entry to events such as the Innsmouth Literary Festival. Okay, what do we got next time, sir?
Well, next time is quite exciting. We're going to be joined by Mr. James Lovegrove, the author of the Sherlock versus Cthulhu books, which, that's going to be very exciting indeed.
Yeah, in fact, I'm just reading one of those at the moment, so yeah.
Yeah, they're good. They're very good.
And following that, we're going to be putting out another bonus episode. It will be our 6th episode on the Fungi from Yoggoth sonnet cycle, our 6th delve into Lovecraft's sonnets. So keep an eye out for that as well. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks very much for joining us, folks. Thanks again to Christopher for coming in. With that, it's goodbye from me, Rob Poyton.
And it's goodbye from me, Tim Mendes.